So I now know from personal experience that life gets a heck of a lot more complicated once you finish school and you start working a full-time job and you start making that quote unquote real money. There's probably 1,000 different accounts you can open to put your money, even more ways to invest that money, and heck, don't even get me started all the ways you can spend that money. For example, this super cool Lugia plushie that you see in the back of all of my new videos. It can be very difficult to know where exactly you should be putting your money to get the most bang for your buck, if you will. But it doesn't have to be this complicated. Today, I'm gonna share with you guys what exactly you should be doing every paycheck that you get moving on forward. The first thing that you should be doing as soon as you start making that real money is you should be figuring out exactly how much your survival expenses are gonna be. What do I mean by this? Well, survival expenses are exactly as they sound. How much money are you gonna need to spend each and every month in order to survive? For most people, unless you're some sort of alien or something, that's gonna be shelter, food, and utilities. So bust out that old laptop, open up Excel, and start tracking your survival expenses for about a month or two. Figure out exactly how much money is the bare minimum for you to survive, and this will give us a good understanding of how much money we're gonna have left over after our survival expenses are covered in order to put into the next steps. Which is a perfect segue into our first real place we should be putting our money, and that's going to be into what is known as an emergency fund. For the uninitiated in the personal finance community, an emergency fund is usually around 3 to 6 months of these survival expenses that we just went over, and it's stored in typically a separate savings account than what your main savings account and checking account are. And this emergency fund is only to be used in case of emergency, like you lose a job or you go and break a leg, not in the good way, or something else like that. In my opinion, the best place to have your emergency fund is in a high yield savings account, which is basically just like every other savings account you've ever had, except this one will offer you a little bit higher return than what you usually get in a normal savings account. I currently have mine within a Sofi bank account, and if you guys want to check them out, I'll put a link below in the description, but I've also used Ally in the past, and there's a bunch of different ones that you can use out there, so just do a quick Google search, find which one's going to be best for you, and open that one up, and you should probably be doing this as soon as possible. Because for money that's going to sit there anyway, why would you only want to make 0.1% interest on your money when you could be making 4%? I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. After you've filled your emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of expenses, you're gonna wanna start to lean into any high interest rate debt that you might have. I categorized high interest debt as anything over 5% interest that's not an asset. I call these debts headache debts, anxiety debts, or in extreme circumstances, death debts. This is going to be any credit card loans that you have, any personal loans, any car loans, basically anything that's not a mortgage. The reason we want to get rid of these as soon as possible is because they really hold you back from building actual wealth, because they eat up a portion of your income every single paycheck, and they sneakily add up to a large portion of your income every single year. For example, let's say you've got a credit card and it's got a $5,000 balance on it, and it's at the nationwide average of 24%, and you only plan to make the minimum monthly payments until it's paid off. And you will get that paid off, but get this, it's gonna take you 10 years to do so, and you won't only have to pay off that original $5,000 loan, but an additional $8,396 just in interest alone, making that $5,000 coffee table you had to have for your new home a $13,000 nightmare. Ooh, I'm kind of getting chills from that. So pay off your high interest debt so we can both sleep better at night. Great, now that we've covered all of the must-dos, let's get into the fun stuff, starting with the 401k. Now, if you're an employee of a company, there's a very good chance that your employer will offer you a 401k plan to invest in, which is great and all. 401k plans are great, but what we're really after here is if your employer offers a match with their 401k plan. What this means is if you contribute to your 401k, your employer will also contribute into your account, basically making you free money. And you should take the free money. Please take the free money. It's free money. So here's what you gotta do. Go and research through your employee benefits and look to see at what percentage your employer will match your 401k plan. And then after you find out that, go into where your 401k is held, either Vanguard, Fidelity, or something else, different broker, kind of like that, and change your contribution rate to that exact percentage. And then we can come back and boost this amount up in the future if we've got spare money lying around. I also wanted to throw one more thing in here because it was the case for me. Sometimes an employer will offer you a choice between investing in a traditional 401k and a Roth 401k. And without going too far into the weeds, if you're on the younger side, 20s, 30s, even 40s, I would always invest in the Roth 401k as compared to your traditional 401k, because basically you'll save more money on taxes because you have such a long time for that money to grow and you want to be taking out all of those gains tax free. So if you have the option, choose the Roth 401k, not the traditional 401k. And speaking of Roth, after we get that employer match with our 401k, we want to send all of our extra money into maxing out our Roth IRA. The Roth IRA is the gold standard of investing accounts. For those of you who don't know, all money made within the Roth IRA, if your investments go up in value, you can take out all of those gains tax-free. It's so good, in fact, the government actually caps you at only contributing $7,000 a year into this account so that they can still collect taxes. So before moving on to any other investment account, your goal should be to max this thing out every single year if you can. And for those of you interested, I actually have my Roth IRA inside Robinhood because they offer a pretty cool match on contributions into their Roth IRA, and I'll throw a link down below. But there's other places. You can get it through Vanguard, you can get it through Fidelity, Charles Schwab, a bunch of places. Just Google it and find the best one. Now, everyone's gonna have their own unique circumstances. So for those of you who this applies to, the next bucket is going to be to save up for big purchases. Whether you plan on buying a house in the near future or you wanna go back to school, you're gonna have to save up for it. And I think there's two strategies that will allow you to save up for these big purchases effectively. Firstly, I would determine your timeline for this purchase. Are you gonna wanna be purchasing within the year? Is it gonna be a couple years out? Is it gonna be way in the future? You gotta first determine this before making your next decision. And the reason for this is because it'll help us optimize our saving strategy depending on when we're gonna need to make this purchase. If you're planning on making the big purchase within the next 3 years, just save all your money within a high yield savings account, just like we did with the emergency fund in step 1, and that's it. Very straightforward. But if your big purchase is gonna be 3 or more years out, then you can consider saving your money within a brokerage account and investing your savings. Now, the whole reason we're saving money is to actually have enough to make this big purchase. So I'm gonna assume that we don't wanna lose this money. Therefore, I'd only invest in index funds that track the United States stock market, such as like VOO or something similar that track the S&P 500. And the reason I say this is because the United States stock market has only been negative, meaning you've lost money over a 4-year time horizon one time in the entire history of the United States stock market, and that was between the years 1929 and 1932, also known as the Great Depression. And I think it's pretty safe to assume that something like that's not gonna happen again in our near future. So if you wanna take advantage of the possible higher returns investing in the stock market, if your time horizon is over 3 years, then you can go ahead and open a brokerage account and save in that. But if you don't wanna mess with that or it stresses you out, an HYSA is perfectly fine as well. After all the previous buckets have been filled, congratulations, you're a rock star. Now you can put your money really wherever you like. But if you're looking for ideas, here's a couple of things that you can do. You can go back to your 401k and try to max that thing out at $23,000 a year if you're feeling ambitious and up to the challenge. 2, you can invest in just a standard brokerage account, or you can even dabble in alternative investments if that's more your speed. So I hope by now you guys are all experts on what exactly you should be doing each and every paycheck that comes in, because damn, does that feel sweet. But if you already knew every single thing in this video, then at least I hope I could be entertaining to you and you enjoyed the watch anyway. So thank you all for coming out and watching my video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Get out of here.